Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys are staying safe. Today we're going to be finishing up part 2, or we're going to be working on part 2 of our authentication authorization project. So last we left off, we configured our middleware. So now we're just going to finish up our project by creating the user, grabbing a user data from our backend and sending it over to our front end. So there's going to be a lot more front end development going on in this one than backend. So I think we just have one more backend configuration to configure, and then we're over to our front end. So let's just get started. So as you can see, last we left off, let's just close out of this. We were able to work on our, I don't know what this is. We were able to work on our middleware. So now what we want to do is we want to come back into API. So let's minimize all this and let's go into API. And we're just going to create a new folder. And this folder is going to be called user. And within user, we're going to create a new file. And this is going to be called routes.js. So within user, what we want to do now is we want to we want to extract information from our cookies and use that in our front end. So we're going to state import user from, let's see if we can just, there we go. We're going to import user, our user model, and then we're going to import database connect. Is it connect database? What did we call it? That's a good question. Let's make sure we're calling it the right thing. Let's go to utils. It's called database connect. So import database connect from at utils. There we go. Let me see something really quickly. Oh, here, let's make sure we're exporting this. So let's do that. So let's export default database connect. Yeah, so we should have done that in the last one, but glad I caught that. So let's do that. So here we have our database connect. And here we want to do the same thing. We want to say export async function get user data request, and we can say const secret is equal to new text encoder. And we did this in the last video, so we should already know what's going on. Encode, and this is going to be process.env.jwt. Oh, it's just going to be called secret actually. Secret. There we go. Now we want to say const token is equal to request.cookies.get. And we're going to be getting auth token dot value or an empty string. Awesome. So now let's come in here and we're going to use the try catch. I don't know what that is. So let's come over here and do the try catch over here. And with try, what we're going to say is const, and we're going to be making something called a payload is equal to await JWT verify. So it's going to import this. We're going to take in the token and we're going to take in the secret. All right. And now we want to return payload dot user ID. So what this is saying is all right, we want to get the user data. So we want to get the data within our token. So here we grab the secret token. We grab the token also. And then we have this try catch where we're trying to get the payload within our JWT, and we're verifying it with the token and the secret. And then once it's verified, we want to return the user ID that's within our tokens, because that's what we saved within our token. We want to grab that user ID. So for the error, we're going to say console.error getting user data, and this is going to be error. Cool. And here we're going to say return next response.json message, and the message here is going to be error getting user data. Cool. So within this same file, we're going to come down here and we're going to create another function, and this is going to be called export async function get request. And here what we're going to say is await database connect. Did we do that here? Let's see. No, we did not need. We don't need to await database connect here, so that's fine. And then we can say const user ID is equal to await get user data. So we're calling this function down here. Awesome. Now we can say try catch, and just make sure this is being called up here, not within a try catch. And now we can say const user is equal to await user dot find by ID, and this is going to say user ID dot select username, and we're going to say return next response dot JSON user message user found. So we're gonna grab, since we already have, so what we're doing here is we already have our user ID. We're getting it from here because that's what's within our payload. So we're grabbing that user ID down here. When we grab that user ID, we're now gonna check within our database to see if we can find any user ID that's corresponding within our database. And then if we do find that user ID, we're going to select just the username, because we just want to send that username to the front end. So we're going to return a response with just the username and a message saying user found. So once we're done with that, we say console.error, and we're going to say return next response.json message error fetching user. And just like that, we're all set. So that's pretty much all we're doing here. This should have request within it. So const user ID await get user data request. Just like that, we're all done with our backend, and now we can go in and start working on our front end. So in our front end, what we want to do is come to our source folder, and within our source folder, we're going to create another folder, and this is going to be called context. And within context, we're going to have something called Auth Context.js. And here's where we handle global state management, basically. So whatever we have here is going to be passed globally within as a state globally within our application. So what we want to say is we're going to be using a client here. So this is going to be a client component. And then we're going to be importing. Let's just import it now. So let's say import. Let's import React. And this is going to be use effect. And we're going to be using state. We're also going to be doing something called use. Let's use create context and use context. Cool. And so import Axios, as we're going to be using Axios. So now we can say const auth context. Let's make this capital. Auth context is equal to create context. Nope, that's not what we want. Create context. That's what we want. Let's take this out. Nice. And now we want to export it and say export const use auth is equal to, and here we're going to call it return use context, and this is going to be auth context. Awesome. Now we can go ahead and start working on our code and say our logic and say const auth provider is equal to, this is going to be children, and here we're going to have the state hooks, so it's going to be user and set user is equal to use state null, and const loading set loading, and this is going to be initially true. Cool. So within this, we can write our function. We're going to say const fetch data, and we're going to be hidden the endpoint that we just created, the API endpoint we created in the backend. So try catch, and for try, we're going to say const response is equal to await axios.get /API/user, because that's where we created. That's the one we just created, and remember that one gets. Let's bring it over here. This is what we're going to use to get our user. So the username is what we're looking for. So /user, and we're going to have an if else. So if let's see, response.data username, then we want to set the user to response.data username, and let's just console log that. So console.log username response.data username. So let's console log that, and let's also set loading to false. Else we're going to set user to null, not false, and we're going to set loading to false. For the catch error, we're just going to say console.log error. We're going to set user as well to null, and we're going to set loading to false. And what we want to do now is just use useEffect, the useEffect hook, and we're going to have an empty dependency, and we're just going to call fetch data here. Awesome. So as we do that, now we want to return, and for our return, we're going to say auth context.provider is equal to value is equal to user set user. So these are going to be and then fetch data. So these are going to be the hooks and the functions that are going to be passed throughout our application. So they're going to be passed globally. So not only are we going to pass this user set user state hooks, we're also going to pass this fetch data function, this right here. Cool. Now we want to now state if there's no loading. So if our content isn't loading, then we want to show the children. Else we want to show the loading. So div class name, full min height screen, pattern top. We're gonna say let's go with 10 view height, background gray of 900, flex, justify, center, and items, center. Cool. And now we're going to say div class name, and this is just to have that animated spin that shows that it's loading. Rounded, full, height is 32, width is 32, border is B2, border here is gray, 900. Awesome. So that's it. So we just created our auth context just like that. And let's do that. And at the bottom here, we just want to export default auth provider. Did I say provide?
Music licensing reimagined.
Let's see. Did I? Yep, spelled it wrong. Should be auth provider. Awesome. So we're done with our auth context just like that. Now we can go into our where is it? Within the root, we should see something called layout. Where is layout? There we go. Layout.js. And within our layout.js, all we want to do now is we want to come over here and we just want to encapsulate the nav, children, and the body using auth provider. So we're going to say auth provider. And let's take this out. And right after body, we're going to say auth. Hold up. That's interesting. So what did I do wrong here? Let's see. Oh, that's why. So this should be within. There we go. So just like that, we're done with our layout. And at the top here, let's say import auth provider at the top here. So just like that, we're done with this. Now, remember I said, if you were following from the beginning of our playlist, meaning how we created this application, we currently have in our home, where is this? Yeah, we have this as our home screen, not home screen, as our default home route. So if you just go to the URL, it takes you right there. So what we want to do is we want to move this. We don't want this to be here anymore, so we want to move it. And what we're going to say is we're going to create a route. And this, let's do that. And this route is going to be called, let's see. It's a lot going on here. Let's just make sure I'm within the right thing. So, yeah. So this route is going to be called, it's going to be a new folder. And this is just going to be called, let's call this hero. Cool. And hero is going to have the page.js. And we're just going to move, we have this. We're just going to move this into this. So let's just import headline nav, import banner. Cool. So we're just going to move that. So that way it's its own route. And for page.js, what we're going to have is our login screen. So this is going to act as our login page. So let's go ahead and build that out. So before we begin, let's see if we can open up our server. So let's see. our local server. So let's see npm run dev. Let's see what we get here.
Artlist.io.
Let's see. Okay, so nothing's gonna show, and that's because this is now our new route. So if we, let's close out of that. So if we go over to /hero, the default export is not a React component in page. So let's see. All right, so after debugging this, in terms of our hero page, that's not going to work because remember we have that middleware, so there's no token right now. So what I did was I just went back to the components and I just made sure to resave this, the banner component and the headline nav. Those are the two things within the hero page that weren't exporting for some reason. So I just went ahead and resaved that. And then in our page, this is our login. Remember, so we just started writing things in there just so it's not empty. So we have use client, and actually I could just do this with you guys all over again. So if I do this, as you can see, it throws that error that we saw. So it can't be empty. This can't be an empty route. So what we can say is use client here. Save that, and then we can start writing out our function. So it's going to be export default function, and it's going to be called login page. So let's see if that clears anything up. There we go. As you can see, now we have something within there. Here we're going to be using that use auth that we created with the auth context. So we're going to say fetch data is equal to use auth, and that should immediately export. Cool. So that should immediately export, import from auth context. Then we can say const. We're going to be using this as email, set email, and these are the properties that we're going to be sending back to our API. We're going to be posting it to our API. So let's do this. This is going to be password, set password, and then we're going to have error, set error, and this is going to be use state, and it's also going to be a string. Const router is going to be use router, and here this is going to be next/navigation, not slash what did we have before, next/router. So it's not going to be next/router, it's going to be next/navigation. Cool. So now that we have that, we can actually start writing out our logic. So here we're going to say const handle login is equal to async. So event, and this is going to be e.prevent default.
Music licensing reimagined.
Cool. Now we can have a try catch. And when this try, we're going to say const response is equal to await Axios that post, and Axios should have imported immediately. We're going to say /API/login, and we're going to be passing in the email and the password. So when we do that, we're going to await that fetch data.
Artlist.io.
Yeah, so we're going to await that fetch data that we got from our auth context. So we're going to await the fetch data, and it's been imported here also. So we said const fetch data is equal to use auth. So that's what we're using here. So at the top here, it says const fetch data is equal to use auth. And then at the very top here, we said import. At the very top here, we said import use auth from auth/context/auth context. Within the function, we're going to be we're going to be using the hook const fetch data is equal to use auth. All right, so here we're going to be awaiting fetch data. And the reason we're awaiting fetch data is because if we go back to our auth context here, what fetch data is trying to do is it's trying to get that username, right? So if this runs and we just use the user, we use the global user here, it might not run at the same time as this it might not mount, that's the word. So they might mount at two different times. So the username might not be retrieved as fast as you log in. So you might log in and have to refresh the page in order for that user to be mounted, that fetch data function to be mounted. But if you run that fetch data function within your /login, then they just mount at the same time. Yeah, so if you run the fetch data function within your login call here, within your API call here, then they both have to mount at the same time or milliseconds apart from one another. So that way you're not waiting or reloading the page in order to get the username. And then once we're done with that, we're going to say router.push. And we're just going to be pushing to /hero. For the error, we're going to say console.error and error occurred, and this is going to say error. We can set the error now to an error occurred. Please try again. So typically, what we should actually be doing is, do we want to do that though? Yeah, let's do that instead. So for console error, so rather than have this set error to be an error occurred, please try again. What we want to do is, let me just copy that in here. Cool. So here it's going to be const error message is equal to error.response.data. So we're getting the actual response error set by the server. So the error response message set by the server is going to be this. If we don't have a message set, if we don't have an error message set by the server, then we want to then say an error occurred, please try again. But right now we just want to use what's set by the server because that's going to be important going on down the road. So set error would now be this error message. Cool. Now there's one thing I forgot to do. So if we come over to login, our login API, down an API in the API file, the API folder. One thing I forgot to do was it API? Is it this one? Oh, here it is. So here I said const user for our post request. For user, I said const user is await user.find. It shouldn't be just find, it should be find one. There we go. So we're just finding that one email address is what we're doing. We're not just saying find. So let's see if we made that same error in register. Yeah, we said find one. So that's fine. That's all I wanted to make sure. User, did we also say find one? Find by ID. Cool. All right, so we're all set. So I just happen to remember that. Cool. And how's this going? So it's saying we don't have useState here. So let's just import useState. Import useState. Cool. Now what's the problem? Okay, so we're good now. Okay, so now we can come down and return. So we can return, and we're gonna have our div here. And here we're gonna create that login component. So we're gonna be using a a backdrop or a wallpaper. So because of that, we're gonna say relative width is full, height is screen, pattern top is gonna be 8 view height. And here we're gonna import image, next image, the source. We're gonna get that in a second. And we're gonna say alt is equal to login background. Yeah, that's fine. Login background. The quality is gonna be 100. We're gonna say fill. The style here is going to be object fill. Oh well, object fit is going to be cover. And there. Why is that wrong? Well, yeah. It's an object. There we go. All right, so now we're gonna get an error because we don't have this source. So I'm not gonna get the source source with you, the actual image with you. So what I did is what I'm gonna explain. So I just went over to JWT and I just told it to create a placeholder for a cinematic background. So a cinematic wallpaper is what I said, and it was able to get me this. So I'll show you what my current one is. So it was able to get me something like this. So once you have your background, close out of this. So once you have your background, then you can come in here within your source and you just create a new folder called assets. Oh, I already have something called assets. Oh, there it is. So I have something called assets, and this is where we created our this is for our location. Remember when we had that location tab, and for our when we did our geocoding and everything, we used this image for as the placeholder for our locations. So all you're gonna do is you're just gonna grab your new wallpaper, and you're just gonna slap it in here within images. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Cool. So this is the image I ended up going with. As you can see, it was created by JWT. So it just says a cinematic wallpaper for a movie app login page, and then it tells you what it's featuring. Now all I want to do is rename it. So I'm just gonna rename it as wall. So rename. I'm gonna name it as wallpaper. Cool. Awesome. So now we can import it, wallpaper, from at assets / images / wallpaper .wep, I believe it is. So with an image source, we're just going to put in wallpaper. And let's see if that works for us. There we go. So this is still within our localhost 1005, and it works perfectly fine. So we have that. Let's make it look pretty. So we have that, and now we can go on with the rest of our code. So down here, we're just going to open up another div, and now this class name is going to be absolute. There we go. So this is going to be, actually, we just make it regular. There we go. So it's going to be absolute The top is going to be 0, left is going to be 0, width is going to be full, height is going to be full, flex, items, center, justify, center, div, and div here is going to be class name, background, transparent, pattern of 8, rounded, large, shadow, Excel, backdrop filter is going to be, I'll just give it a backdrop filter actually, and background, blur at large. Cool. So now let's do this. Let's do this. So now we can see what we're working on the front end. Okay, so perfect. Let's close out of this because we're already seeing what we're working on. So as you can see, we have this little blur image here. So we need more. So let's go ahead and build more. Cool. Here we're gonna say, do we need a? Let's just make it h2 tag instead. So h2, and for our h2, we're gonna say text, class name. Text here is gonna be 3XL. The font is gonna be semi-bold. Margin bottom is gonna be 6. Text is gonna be center. Text here is gonna be white, and it's gonna be called login. Bam. Now we're gonna have this form, and on submit, it's going to be the handle login that we created earlier, the function. The class name is going to be space y of 4. Here the div, label, HTML4 is going to be email. Class name here is going to be block. Text white. Font is bold. Margin bottom of 2. Let's close that out. And within our label, we're going to have email. Cool. And now at the bottom, it's going to be input. The type is going to be text. ID is going to be email. Class name here is going to be width full, rounded, large. Border is going to be pattern Y of 2, pattern X of 3. Text black, focus, outline, none, focus, ring of 2, focus, ring, blue, 500. Okay. Now we're going to have an onChange. And for our onChange, it's going to be event, set email, e.target.value. And the value here is going to be email. Placeholder is going to be email. And we're going to have this as required. Awesome. So I don't want to redo that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this div. I'm just going to bring it on down 1. And for this, we're going to call it password. And then this is going to be password. And where else? Yeah, so this would be set password. this here would be password, and this here will be password. Cool. So just like that, we have what we need. Now the only difference is, remember that set error we created? So if we do, let's say we do try and log in and we have something that went wrong. Let's say there's a message in the backend about that error. We want that error displayed within our form. So that error is going to be displayed right below our, like right here. It's going to be displayed right below our password input field. So what we're going to do is we're going to place it right here. We're going to say if there's an error, then actually we don't even have to do that. We'll just set error here. No, actually, sorry, we'll just have error here. So if there's an error, it's just going to display that error there. Cool. All right, let's do this. So if there's an error, then let's do this. Let's make it a p tag. So let's say class name is equal to text white. Make it a little bit better. And then we can just place that error in there. So then the error message just goes in there. So that's a little better. So that's pretty much it. And then lastly, we want to have one more div, and this div is, you guessed it, it's going to be our button. So class name, we're just going to say flex justify between items center. Here the button type is going to be submit. Class name here is going to be background blue 500, hover background blue 700. We're going to have it as text of white. The font here is going to be bold. Padding Y is 2. Padding X is 3. Rounded is going to be large. Focus outline is none. And then focus shadow is going to be outline. Let's close that up, and then it's going to say sign in. Cool. And that's it. That's all we need. So just like that, we're done with our login. So let's quickly run over and create our register. We're just going to pretty much copy and paste. So this is all API stuff. Let's go in here and we're going to say new folder, and this is going to be register. So this is going to be the register route. New file. It's going to be page.js. Cool. So let's take basically everything within here for our login. I'm just going to place. Okay. That's not what we wanted to do. Let's take everything within our page here. And then we're going to paste it in here. So for this, the default here is just going to be register page. Cool. And since it's register page, we're going to have, I believe we have one more here. It's going to be, let's see. Let's do this first. Let's configure this first. Register, I believe, has username. So we're going to say const username, set username, use state. Let's see. All right. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to, because I don't want to go over that CSS again, I'm just going to make sure I have everything here. Let's see. So this is my actual project. So let's, so we're not going to be using fetch data. So we're going to keep it the email. We're going to keep the password, and we're going to keep the username. Cool. Okay. So here's where it's a little different. So here's where it's a little different. So here we're going to have handle register, right? But what we want to do here that's going to make it a bit different is when we register, if you're a new user and you register, which is the only way you can register, once you get a status of 200, you want to go straight into the application. You want to be logged in once you register. So you don't want to register and then be taken to the login page to do it all over again, to log in all over again. Once you register, you sail right into the application because you log in automatically when you do that, which makes sense. So now, what we're going to say is try, and then this is going to be, let's take all this out, and this is going to be const register response is equal to await, and I guess here we're using fetch. I don't remember why I did that, but I guess I just used fetch. So we're going to be saying fetch. You can also use Axios the same way I did it, but I guess I just wanted to use fetch in this one. Post. I mean, you can use Axios the same way I've been doing it, but in this one, I just happen to use post. Headers, we're gonna say content type, and this is gonna be application / JSON. Cool. Cache, no cache. Cool. Body here is going to be JSON dot stringify, and then we're going to take in the email. So this is what we're going to be passing to the backend: email, password, and the username. So we're going to be passing these 3 properties to the backend. Cool. So now, after doing so, let's see. Cool. After doing so, we're going to see if register response dot status is equal to 200. So if it's equal to 200, then we're going to say const register data. We don't really need register data actually, because we're not going to console log it. We're just going to say await register response dot JSON. And once we do that, now we can proceed automatically to the login. So const register login response is going to be equal to await the same fetch, and we're going to say /API /login. This is also going to be a post method. The headers here are going to be, I'm just going to copy this because I don't want to redo it. Okay, post headers, content type. Okay. Method is post. Oh, that's why. So headers here is this content type. There we go. All right. And then here the body. So method is post headers open bracket content type application /JSON close bracket, and then the body here is JSON dot stringify, and here we're going to be passing the email and the password only because this is simply the login. Now we want to state if login response dot status is equal to 200, then we want to say not const, we just want to say await login response dot JSON, and then router dot push to /hero. And since this is an if, we're going to have an else console.log login failed after registration. And then we want to state register response dot status. Cool. So once we're done, we want to clear everything. So we're going to say set username and clear that out. We're going to say set email. We're going to clear that out. Set password. Clear that out. Cool. And then let's see. Yeah, so this
Music licensing reimagined.
should be here. Cool. And then catch error. Oh, so here we don't want to set the error again. We just want to say console.error. And okay. Error occurred. An error occurred during the registration or login process, which is quite vague, but since we don't want to expand too much on the error handling, we're just going to keep it at this for right now. So let's see where we made an error. So I guess there's an error here somewhere. Okay, so let's expand this. Let's see. So we're not using Axios. We didn't use auth. So we can't use prettier because there's an error somewhere. Now to find that error. Am I missing something? Oh, so we have two else's. That's the problem. So there's an else here that says console. So if login route.push. So this should have been console.error. Okay, so this should have been console.error. Login failed. Let's minimize this. So it's console.error. Login failed after registration, blah blah. And then there's another else. All right, so here there's another else. So with this, then we have console.error. Registration failed, and this would be registration response register response.status. And this one would be login response. That status. All right, so glad we're able to figure that out. Cool. So now we have this. Here we're gonna have 3, actually. So we're still gonna need that. Actually, I just thought about it. So for the CSS, let's just for our form in CSS, let's see what we have here. That's still fine. So this should say register, not login. Register. Do we have this as this should be handle register, not handle login. So this should be handle register. So we have username first. So let's take this div and we're just gonna say this is gonna be for username. This is gonna be username. ID will be username. 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 And username. Cool. Everything else, pretty much the same thing. The ID here should have been password. So I got to change that in login as well. Cool. So the only thing is we're not going to be using this error. And I don't believe I have it here set to. So let's take this part out. Okay. And this should be register, not sign in. Submit, blah, blah, blah. Cool. So let's minimize this. So where is our error coming from this time? Catch number 52.
Artlist.io.
52. This should be fine. Cool. All right, so we're good. Now let's see what we have here.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay, so now if we go to /register, there we go. So our register is fine. Now let's see if our logic actually works. So let's come in here, let's inspect console, and here, since I already, actually I don't think I ever logged in, so let's register. Let's see, /register. So it's already telling us that there's an API error. Auth Context, we have an API error here. Is it because we can't get the user yet? Let's see. Yeah, there's no user being set yet. So let's see. Here we're gonna have test at test.com. Test. Well, that should be password. So for our password here, HTML for password, ID, type here should be password. So let's make sure we do the same thing here in our login. So ID should be password, type should be password. Cool. So let's come in here. There we go. We can close out of that. Let's try and register. So we have registration failed. And why is that?
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay. So let's see why. All right. So after debugging this, I think the problem is if we go back again to utils MongoDB, here this should not be a function. This should just be this. So let's try it now. So just make sure in your Mongo utils, where is it? In your utils folder with mongodb.js, just make sure that that database connect is not a function. It's just exporting default database connect. And that's it. So if we go back here to Chrome, we inspect the page. Let's see what we get now. So let's try again. Test at test.com, test, register. And do we get anything back? Yep, there we go. So it works perfectly. So now, as you can see, it works completely fine. Yeah, so what do we get back? Let's see, network, register, profile created, login successful. So that is how you create. So now if I can go to any, let's see, location, let's just cancel that. But yeah, so I can go to any page. But here's the problem. So now if I click entertainment, I'm back to this home page. And then I can go hero because I'm still technically logged in. So if I come to inspect and I go to application and I go to cookies, as you can see, that cookie's still there. I'm still logged in. Even if I do this, I'm still logged in. So how do we log out? So that's what we're about to figure out now. So everything we do is going to be within our nav component. So because our nav component houses the entertainment icon, location. So what we're going to do is also place in a sign out component to it. So let's go over there. All right. So when we open up our nav component, you can see we already have like things in there. So what we want to do now is just add to it. So within our nav, at the top here, where we're going to state is const user and set user is equal to use auth, and it imports automatically. Then we're going to use const router is equal to use router. And then this is going to be a function. And remember, this is going to be navigation. And up here, because we're using hooks, it's going to be use client. Awesome. All right. So we're all good now. Yeah. So this is what we're going to have. And then we're going to have this function. We're going to create this function within here. It's going to be called handle logout. And it's going to be async. And here we're going to say try catch. And we're going to say const response is equal to await axios dot get slash API slash logout. And that's because that's where we wrote our API logic. Our logout logic. That's where we wrote our logout. That is where we wrote our logout logic. A little bit of a tongue twister. So if response.status is equal to 200, then we can say router.push, and we're pushing to the login screen, and then we're going to set that user to null. So we're not going to have a user anymore. All right. And then for the error, we're just going to say console.error logout failed.
Music licensing reimagined.
Cool. Let's do this. Error. Actually, that should be the else. So the else is going to be console.error logout failed. Error. Actually, logout failed. That's good enough. And then for the catch error, it's going to be the same thing, except we're going to have error here. Cool. So now let's wrap this. Cool. So this is what we have. So we have that handle logout, and it's just a simple API call. And if it's if the status is 200, we're just going to push to the login route. We're going to set that user to null. If not, then we're going to just console log the error, and then same thing for error here. So now we have within our return, we have this nav tag, so nav class name, and then the next thing we're going to have is this div class. So we have a div class that's saying with full height full flex justified between item center. So what we want to do is let's take that and let's just quickly comment out of it. Let's just comment it out. And then we're going to replace it with this div that's going to say class name. The div is going to be flex items center. Cool. And while we do that, we can open up this as well. so we can see what's going on simultaneously. All right. Cool. So now we're gonna say if we have a user, and because remember we're grabbing a user from our global state. So we're grabbing a user from use auth, and we're gonna say if there's a user, then where is it? There we go. We're gonna say let's link. So we're gonna link href, and this is gonna be /hero. Cool. And within this link, we're gonna have a h1 tag, and this is gonna have class name, cursor, pointer, text, 2.5 vmin, and here it's gonna say entertainment. Cool. So we're gonna get the error for right now because we don't have an else. So else, we're gonna state same thing, link href is equal to
artlist.io.
And this is gonna be h1 as well. Class name here is gonna be cursor, pointer as well. Text is gonna be 2.5 vmin as well. Okay, so where's our error now? So we have this user. So why do we have this error? Okay, what's it saying? Expected that. Okay.
Artlist.io.
Okay, cool. We had one too many. All right. So what this logic is saying is, if we have a user, then when we click on this entertainment link or entertainment icon or text, I guess, then if we have a user, then it should take us to the hero page because we're logged in. If we don't have a user, meaning we're logged out, then it should just take us to the single route, to the single backslash, which is the login route. So that's what we're saying here. So we're given this some logic, this entertainment text some logic. Cool. So let's come down here again, and within this, now we're going to create other nav links. So here we're going to say class name flex items center, and we're going to give this one a gap of 4. And here we're going to state once again, if we have a user, then just going to give it a fragment, and we're going to say h2, give it a class name. Text is going to be 1.95 vmin. Small is going to be text 1.75 vmin. And here we're going to state, remember this is for if we have a user available, we're going to say hi, and this is going to be user. Now we can state again, and then this is going to be for if we don't have a user, we're just going to say null simply. So if we don't have a user, then we're going to say null. So as you can see automatically that this changed to hi test because we're signed in and our username is test. So if we were signed out, then we would just have nothing show. So that's that. So we can actually take out this. Oops. So from 47. So we can take out this. Cool. So we're good with that. Awesome. So we have that part done. Now that's not all of it. We still have the location to worry about. So within our first if, we're gonna also state. Actually, let's put it within this fragment as well. So we're also gonna add a link here, and this link is gonna be href, and this is gonna be to / location. And then within here, we're gonna have an h2 tag, and this h2 is gonna be for location. So that should also appear, as you can see right here. So that should also say location. Let's give it a space. Okay, so h2 for location. Let's give it some class name so it looks similar to the rest of the things there. We're gonna say 1.95 vmin. And then we're going to say for small, it's going to be text 1.75 vmin. Cool. So now everything's congruent. Awesome. So now we can come down to if there's no user now. And if there's no user, everything just remains null. Cool. So down here, what we're going to state is another if there's a user. Then we want a button, right? And this button is going to have a, well, let's not give it a class name yet. Let's give it an onClick. And this onClick, as you've guessed it, is going to be handle logout. Now let's give it a class name. So the class name is going to be background red 500, hover background red 600. Text is white, pattern Y is 2, pattern X is 3, rounded, transition, duration 300, ease in out, and then here we're going to close up that button, and within the button we're going to have what's it called? H2, and this H2 class name is gonna have text of 1.95 vmin, and then on the small as well, it's gonna have text of 1.75 vmin. This is gonna say logout. Cool. So we're not done yet, so that's why we have that error being thrown at us. So it's going to say logout. Let's see. Why do we have two buttons? Okay. So now we can have the or, and here it's just going to be link href. So if we don't have a user, right, it's going to be link href, and this is going to be pointing to our register route. And now we can do this. Cool. And within this, we're going to have button. Cool. And within this button now, let's give it a class name first. So it's background blue 500, hover background blue 600, text is going to be white, padding Y is going to be 2, padding X is going to be 3, rounded, transition, that's good enough. And then here we're going to have H2 within that button. H2 class name here is going to be text, and it's going to be 1.95 vmin. Small, it's going to be text, and it's going to be 1.75 vmin, and this is going to say register. So let's see, there we go. So now, as you can see, everything is working fine. So yeah, everything should be pretty good. So now, as you can see, we're logged in because it says log out here. So if I click on let's make this bigger. If I click on entertainment here, It should take us, there we go. It should take us to the hero section, to the hero page. Now, if I click log out, and then that's an error. So that should still show entertainment. But basically, before we go back and fix that, if I say hero, as you can see, it's just nothing happens. So let's go back here and let's see why. Slash hero. So if there's a user, if there's not, that's why, because we didn't put entertainment here. Cool. So we should still have entertainment. So if I click on that, it takes me nowhere. If I click on register, we head over to the register route. I click over here. So let's try it again. So test at test.com test. As you can see, that works. Let's close out of this. Now, if I go to inspect and I go to my application, as you can see, I still have the cookie there. So this is the auth token. If I log out, that auth token's gone. So we're not allowed back in. So if I click on this, we're still not allowed back in. If I go to slash hero, we're still not allowed back in. If I go to slash location, location, we're still not allowed back in. We come back to this login route, and that's because all our routes are protected. So lastly, all we want to do is let's just inspect this and let's log in again. So let's go test at test.com test. Cool. So we're just going to ignore all this because in production it works pretty fine, so don't worry about it. So let's go over to our code and let's just clean out these. So page.js 22. Let's go over to our login page. And number 22 here. We don't want that console log. There we go. So we can take that out. Awesome. We don't even need the response here. We can just say await because we're not doing anything with it. What else? Auth Context. Let's go to Auth Context really quickly. Let's just find a console log. There we go. We can take that out as well.
Music licensing reimagined.
Awesome. And then the banner number 25. Is it 25 or 95? Can I not read? So first of all, let's just take all this out because we're not going to need it. And is it 95? It had to be 25 then. Oh, 26 actually. Awesome. So we're good with that. Let's see. 38. 38. Oh, doesn't seem like there's a console log here. Cool. So let's clean this out. Let's log out and let's log back in. Test at test.com test. Close out of that. Cool. Yeah, that's it. So the last thing I want to do is you can see in a small image, I guess you could say, in the smaller on a smaller screen, let's put it that way, we can't even see the title here. So what we want to do is we're just going to give it a condition. So let's go over to our banner, and our banner, we're just going to state, let's see. Now we could take all this out. We don't really need this anymore. And remember, I always tell you that I do make changes from time to time away from the screen. So once I put this on my GitHub, you're going to be able to get the full code even, and I push regularly to it. So whatever changes I make, I'm going to make sure it's pushed to the repository. So let's see. Actually, let me just bring in my other code. Let's see. Banner. So I believe there was something I did. I just can't remember exactly what it was. Title. Aha, here it is. So I'm just going to copy it. So here, as you can see for the, let's bring this over. So here for this truncate function, all we have for the class name is text grade 300, text small, smallest text base, margin top of 2. So here, let's just comment this out. and we're going to put this. So now what we're saying is on a small screen, we're going to hide this paragraph because we want to be able to see everything on the screen. So let's just take this out. Cool. And now when we go back, when we inspect it, for example, as you can see, we only have Godzilla X Kong, the new empire. Let's close out of this. Let's open in mobile view. As you can see, it looks a lot better. So if we even use a smaller device, let's say an iPhone 5, as you can see, now we have the problem of the screen being, the title being too big. So what we want to do now, let's close out of the simulator. We can now come back to title, and on a small screen, we can make this 3XL instead. So now if we come to activate in mobile view, we're still on the iPhone 5, are we? No, we're not. There we go. So we have that instead. So everything now looks a lot more compact. Close. We're back here. And let's see, release date. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So that's it. So our project works pretty fine. We're all good. This is everything. I'm gonna go ahead right now and push it to our repository, and then I'm gonna go ahead and so right now this is our URL. So we're at cinema, I think. Yeah, so this is our URL. As you can see, there's nothing within it. So you know what? Let's do that together. So let's refresh our, not refresh, let's restart our URL. Let's restart our domain with the, is there restart? What I'm tired. So let's go ahead and update our actual project within our URL, our domain. So let's go over here. Sorry if I'm saying words weird. I started working on this project pretty early in the morning. So let's see. So now we're at Next.js YouTube. So let's go. So I'm gonna go ahead and push to GitHub really quickly, and then we'll come in and work within the VPS together. Okay, so we're all everything's been pushed to GitHub. I will make sure I make that link public to you guys when I upload this. I know a couple of you've been asking for it. So now when we go to Chrome, we're just gonna close out of this. This is our development, and we're gonna clean that out. So now I'm just gonna CD out of here, and we're gonna be working within my what's the word, within my VPS. So let's see if I can, there we go. So we're just gonna SSH into it. I'm gonna place in my password. Cool, so we're logged in. So now I'm just gonna clear, and then I'm going to CD into that project. So next app, CD into this, and then CD into that. Cool. Let's see. So what I want to do first is git pull. I'm just gonna, awesome. So clear out of that, and then now I want to run npm run build. Yeah, let's do that first. And it's gonna take a little while to do this, so let's run this build really quickly. Okay, so one thing I realized, we do have to run this npm install sharp, so let's do that here first. Okay, so we even have errors. So npm install sharp, let's do that first, and then let's see why we have errors. So npm run build, and what is our error? Hopefully it's a quick fix.
Music licensing reimagined.
Come on, hopefully we can get this working. Come on. Awesome. Don't fail me now. Let's go. Is it the... Let's see. Why is it saying this? Please define Mongo URI oh, so we didn't create our .env. So I'm going to go ahead and update my .env file within this, and then I'll get back to you guys. All right, so all we have to do was vim.env, and once we do that, the file appears, and we're just going to go within our .env file, which I'm not going to show you guys because there's credentials within it, and then update it. That's all we did. So now if we run that npm run build, we should be perfectly fine. Fingers crossed. Come on. Because that was the only one that was the only problem we had, I believe. So let's see. Come on now. See, that's scary when it gets to 12 and it doesn't go any further. It's like, why? Come on now. Do not throw an error. Do not throw an error. Come on. Come on. Awesome. Okay, so it's gonna say database is not connected. I know why. So within our settings, I believe we only allowed. Yeah, that's fine. Let's see. That's fine. So we only allowed the database to be accessed from certain IP addresses or whatever. So I think I need to open it to all for it to be connected. Hopefully that's it. It didn't really throw an error. Cool. So I went into MongoDB and I allowed access from pretty much anywhere. So let's try to run this build again and see what we get. So we shouldn't expect an error. The only thing we should expect is database is connected. So if you don't have a database is connected, then there's something else wrong with it. Oh, there we go. Database is connected. Told you. So that was most likely what the problem was. So once this build is complete, all we have to do is restart our clear and pm2 list. So we're just going to see all our running things on all our running applications, and we're just going to say pm2 restart, and I named it cinema, so we're going to restart 0. Cool. And as you can see, it restarted. So if we say pm2 logs for 0, there we go. It started. We're all set. So now we can just clear out of that, cd out of there, cd out of there, cd out of here, and we can exit our SSH. So it says logouts and it's closed. Clear out of that, and we can just exit out of this. Cool. So now we're back here. So now if we go into our cinema, .boltluna.io, awesome. So everything works perfectly. If we go to inspect mode, console, and we log in, test at test.com, test. There we go. So remember I told you within the console that was only going to show, all those errors were only going to show during development. Okay, I don't know what that flicker was, but yeah, everything works perfectly. So if I log out, we're logged out. If I click on this, we don't go anywhere. If I click on that, we don't. So as you can see, /location, nothing happens. So just like that, we're done. That is our project. So this right here is what we were trying to accomplish, and we have accomplished it. So with all that said, that's it for this project. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you did enjoy this project, and don't forget, just give a thumbs up in the comment section along with any questions you have, just to get some participation or interaction. I don't know why I keep saying interactivity. Get some interaction within our comment section. But with all that said, I'll see you guys on whatever the next project is. Give me some recommendations in the in the comment section. I kind of have an idea of what I want to do, but let me know what you guys also want to see in the comment section. Not a guarantee it's going to happen, but just give me some few ideas. But with all that said, I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.